Hi everybody, today's topic is dividing fractions by whole numbers. As a reminder, you do not need to write down everything we cover in this video, but be sure to jot down important information and at least one example of each type of problem that we cover. Remember also that you can use the pause button to jot down important notes, the rewind button to view information again, and the fast forward button if you think you got it. But just be careful and make sure you don't fast forward too much that you miss out on something important. So let's get started. As a review, this might be something you want to jot down into your notebook. Division is grouping the total amount into equal groups. And we're going to go over the example of 5/6 divided by 3. So go ahead and pause the video if you need to jot that down. Okay, so what this means is that we're going to group this total, 5/6, into 3 equal groups. That may sound counterintuitive because up until now you've been taking the total as the bigger number. But division, it's always the first number is the total, and the second number is your equal groups. So be careful here. How would we show what 5/6 divided by 3 means? So I like to use a word problem. I like to imagine that the 5/6, the first number, the 5/6 is a bag of trail mix. It's not completely filled up. Only 5/6 of it is filled up. And it's being divided evenly amongst 3 friends. The answer that I want is how much does each friend get out of that 5/6. So I'm going to show you 2 different methods of solving this. The first method is called the tape diagram method. Make sure that you write these steps into your notebook so you know how to set up the tape diagram method. Step 1 would be to draw and shade in the first number. Remember, the first number is that total. It's also called the dividend. So that's what we want to draw because that's the total amount of trail mix that these friends are going to share. In order to draw 5/6, I draw 5 lines in a box. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that I get 6 parts, and I'm only going to shade in 5 out of the 6 total parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of the 6 that I drew. So it's a box with 5 lines going up and down inside of it to get the 6 parts, and I'm only shading in 5 out of the 6. You can either use a highlighter for the shading, you can lightly shade it in with the edge of your pencil, whichever way you want. But this is the dividend, the total that the 3 friends are going to share. Now step 2 that you should have in your notebook is that we're going to divide that 5/6, the whole, into parts based on the second number, the divisor. So dividend is the total that you draw, and then the divisor is the second number that you're going to divide it into. So here we have 5/6 of the trail mix that they're sharing, and then we are actually going to divide the whole into 3 parts. And we're going to draw 2 lines, 1, 2, in the opposite direction to divide the bag evenly amongst the 3 friends. I also numbered the portions for each friend so I can keep track of friend number 1 and how much they're getting, friend number 2 how much they're getting, and friend number 3 and how much they're getting. So again, we drew 2 lines in the opposite direction because there's 3 people, so I'm going to draw just 2 lines. If I drew 3 lines like I had originally, I would be dividing it into 4 parts, so it's 1 less than the amount. And I also want to draw the lines in the opposite direction so that it's not interfering with my lines going up and down. That would be way too many lines. So I want to make sure I'm drawing it in the opposite direction. Now we're on to step 3, which should be in your notes. Step 3 is just to count how much each friend gets out of the total to find the answer. Remember, we wanted to know if we were to divide 5/6 of a bag of trail mix amongst 3 friends, how much does each friend get? That's our answer. 5/6 of the bag divided into 3 different parts. How much does each person get? So that's why we are counting how much each person gets. So person 1 gets 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of those parts out of the total of the entire bag. So I want to count how many little squares are in the entire bag. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 6 in each row. 6 plus another 6 is 12, plus another 6 is 18. So you can count by 6 and 6, 12, 18. So each person will get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 18 total. Sometimes people only count the shaded, but it's out of the entire bag. Okay? You can also, going from step 2 to step 3, use different colors so that you show that this is the first group for the first person, this is the second group in green for the second person, and this is the third group in yellow for the third person. So then it's very easy for you to see how much each person gets. It's 5 shaded in this row out of the total, including these 3, 18 parts. So then each friend gets 5/18 of the total trail mix bag. That right there is the tape diagram method. Drawing and shading in the first number, dividing it into parts based on the second number, opposite lines, and then count how much each friend gets out of the entire bag to find the answer. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the algorithm method. It's the other method that you can use to solve these problems. The algorithm method is usually referred to as the shortcut method because you don't really need to draw and it doesn't take as many steps. The algorithm method depends on our knowledge that division is the same as multiplying by the divisor's reciprocal. Remember that the divisor is the second number. It's the one that we are dividing the whole by. So let's take a look at what 5/6 divided by 3 would look like. For 5/6 divided by 3, we would just keep the 5/6. We can't change this number here. This number is how much was in the trail mix bag. If I change it, then I'm changing the amount of food that these 3 people are sharing, right? So we know that division is the same as multiplying, so we change the division to a multiplication symbol. But if we change it into a multiplication symbol, we'll need to change the divisor into its reciprocal because multiplication and division are very different. So in order to keep that balance, we also have to change the divisor into the reciprocal. So it becomes 5/6 times 1/3. So instead of a 3 as the numerator, we are flipping it to the denominator. So it becomes 5/6 times 1/3. This makes sense because each friend got only 1/3, 1 out of the 3 shares. So that's why it makes sense that we would, instead of dividing by 3, we could multiply by 1/3 because we're really trying to find 1/3 of the share. Then for the math, we would multiply top and top, 5 times 1, and bottom times bottom, 6 times 3. And we would still end up with 5/18, which was the answer we got for the tape diagram. Much quicker. However, you need to remember the shortcut. So you're keeping the total the same. You are multiplying instead of dividing, and you're changing that divisor into the reciprocal. You will need to know both methods, the tape diagram method and the algorithm method. So you'll need to know both of them. Let's go through an example on Khan Academy. So here's an example on Khan Academy, 2/3 divided by 5. Go ahead and pause the video and see if you can solve this using both of the methods in your notebook. Okay, so we have 2/3 divided by 5. I'm going to first go through with the tape diagram method. As you're practicing, you can use your notes if you need to remember how to follow those 3 steps. But if you remember correctly, the first step is you always draw the first number. That's 2/3. Oh, I thought it looked exactly like our example, but it's not. That's 2/3 divided by 5. So I have 2/3 of a trail mix. So it's 2 out of 3 parts. That means I need to draw 3 parts. To draw 3 parts, I only need to draw 2 lines so that it divides into 1, 2, and 3 parts. To shade that in, I'm going to use a different color. I'm only shading in 2 out of the 3. So there's my 2/3. Now I'm going to divide it into 5 different parts. So that means I'm only drawing 4 lines. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Doesn't have to be equivalent. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we want to know how much each person gets. Let's look at person 1. Person 1 has 1 and 2. 2 parts out of the total. The total has 1, 2, 3. 3 plus another 3 is 6, plus another 3 is 9, plus another 3 is 12, plus another 3 is 15. So 2 out of 15. You could also multiply 1, 2, 3 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 times 3 equals 15 total parts. This answer is 2/15. That's using the tape diagram method. Let's use the algorithm. Now, algorithm just means that it is a formula that you're using. You're always doing the same thing each time. So for the algorithm method, we're taking the total. We're not changing that. We're not changing the amount of trail mix we have. That would be unfair. We're taking the division sign and we're changing it into multiplication. The 5 becomes 1/5. Goes from the numerator to the denominator. So we multiply top and top, that's 2, bottom and bottom, that's 15. So both methods give us 2/15. And that is correct. Okay? So with reciprocals, you just have to remember it's the complete opposite. 5 became 1/5. Just like how 1/6 would go back to a normal 6. If you have a number like, I don't know, 3/4, it would become 4/3. So everything just flips. The 5 was on top, now it goes on the bottom. The 6 was on the bottom, now it goes on top. Okay? So that's dividing fractions by whole numbers. Make sure that you're practicing both methods when you are solving these problems, because both methods are what you need to know for an assessment. Let me know if you have questions as you work on this, and if not, I will see you in class.